So that was the topic this week. You may or may not have been aware of it, but we've got the podcast is now on video. So, and we're also experimenting with what we've called a Squiggly Career Short, which is a shorter episode that goes out on a Thursday. So you've got your normal episode on a Tuesday, and then we've got this sort of 7-minute episode that goes out on a Thursday. If you've got any feedback on those, please let me know. It'd be really useful to know. We are going to be going into the studio to do our next batch of episodes in, I think it's next week actually. And we're sort of really, if you are a regular follower of Squiggly Careers, this is us actively experimenting. I don't know if we're going to keep Squiggly Career Shorts that go out on a Thursday, not sure yet. But we're going to try, I think what we might try and do is turn them into tools for teams. So just, watch and learn with us. We're sort of really experimenting with the podcast a little bit. But the topic this week was purpose. You can listen to it, you can watch it, you can listen to the short if you've not got time, but the topic is purpose. And the starting point for this was we think that people talk about purpose, having a purpose at work, but it can feel a bit difficult and a bit ambiguous and a bit hard to action. So the point of this episode was really, how do we help people put this idea of purpose into action with their work? That's really the kind of the thought behind the episode. So I'm interested in your thoughts to begin with. Before I get into some tools and some ways of framing this, what are your first thoughts? And I've been intentionally big, I guess, about this question, because your first thoughts might be, I think purpose is a load of woo-woo, or you might be like, purpose has really helped me, or I don't understand what purpose is. When we say purpose at work, what are your first thoughts? Is this something that connects with you? Do you find it confusing? Just head into chat for me. So Laura's saying, I like the reframe to purposeful. Yeah, we're going to talk about that, this kind of difference between having a purpose and purposeful work. Does that help us with this? Jude saying hard to define. Pauline, why am I here? As in, why are you here? Or why are you here? I think you mean why am I here at work? And feeling like you're adding purpose about adding value to the org. Susan saying, I find it really hard to define. I mean, but do you want it as well? We're kind of making the assumption that having a purpose feels nice. I guess my starting point is having a purpose at work feels nice, but it's hard to know how to make purpose work for you. It's sort of my first thoughts. What else? Lizzie says, I work for a charity, so it's a little easier to feel purpose. As an interesting perspective. Sam says, I love the episode, it made me feel accessible. Oh, good. That's always our aim. Our number one value is useful. So that's always our aim. Zoe saying purpose gives direction. Adele saying, I'm very into your job at the moment, Adele. I'm very purpose-driven in the organisation I work for. I feel like I want to know much more about Adele's job with safety and trees. Heather saying, really connect with having purpose at work, but it can feel like such a huge task. Jackie saying, I feel like I've lost purpose. So I think it's interesting. I feel sometimes like purpose is presented as a sort of lofty thing, but what does it mean when you're in a meeting? The purpose is a big thing, but I spend most of my day in meetings. So what does this idea of purpose actually mean for me? A couple of quotes. I was exploring quotes to try and unlock my thinking, and I came across two, one from Simon Sinek and one from Jay Shetty, which just sort of helped me explore this idea of purpose. I wanted to sort of share them with you to see if it influences or impacts your thinking on it. So Simon Sinek, when we work hard for something we don't believe in, it's called stress. When we work hard for something we love, it's called purpose. And I thought that was quite interesting. How does purpose feel when you haven't got purpose? You can be putting the same amount of effort in, but if you haven't got purpose, all that effort can feel quite stressful. But if you have got purpose, all that effort can make you feel good about the work that you do. And I thought, I was reflecting on my career, and I think I've always worked hard in jobs, as I'm sure you do. I've always worked hard, but there have been times when I've been putting the equal effort in, but because I haven't connected to purpose where I was working, I definitely felt more stressed. So it wasn't about the amount of hours I was doing that made a difference to how I felt. It was probably the amount of connection I had to what I was doing. So, purpose and connection may be a way of framing it. Yes, Amaka values and beliefs are important, and that's what we're going to come on to in a second. Second quote I really liked, see if you like this one, from Jay Shetty. Your passion is for you, your purpose is for others. Your purpose is when you use your passion to serve others, which I know there's quite a few bits in there, but I like this idea that it's probably this statement that really I found quite useful. Your purpose is when you use your passion to serve others. So I like the idea that purpose is potentially bigger than you. Might be about kind of like beyond what you do. It's kind of bigger than you, but also it's taking something that you care about and connecting it to something that can maybe help other people. So I found this quite a connecting quote for me when I was just playing with purpose. I can see the problem that it feels a bit lofty, and I'm trying to sort of play with the idea of purpose to make it a bit more useful. Where we got to is this difference between sort of purpose and purposeful work. And so what I wanted to ask you to do is, I thought I would just give you a minute for both of these questions, and then I'm going to ask you for your reflections. So question number one is this one. What is the purpose? I'm going to get rid of that for a moment. What is the purpose that drives your work? If you were just I might just be quiet for like 30 seconds and get you to think about that. And you're welcome to share your ideas in chat, or you can just keep them to yourself. But if you were just going to think about that question and generate some insights, what would your answers be? Either for yourself, or you're welcome to share them in chat if it is useful and you want to do that. But question number one, and just 30 seconds to think about it. What is the purpose that drives your work? And then the second question, and again, I'll be kind of quiet for 30 seconds where you kind of have a think about this. Because see lots of people sharing. Actually, maybe we just have a look just before we go on. So Simon saying helping colleagues to develop themselves. Zoe turning potential into performance and make every day a learning adventure. Oh, I love that. I love that. You're gonna like our new book, Zoe. Helping to effectively manage funds, makes people's lives better at scale. Adele, I'll come back to that. I'll come back to that question if that's okay. So lots there. Okay, second question. Again, I'm just going to give you a bit of time just to see what answers that you get to. So the second question is, what do you do at work that feels purposeful? So what do you do at work that feels purposeful? So you're welcome to share your ideas in chat. I'm just going to give you 30 seconds to think about it and write down some responses, and then I'm going to ask you a couple of other questions. But what do you do at work that feels purposeful? Okay, and then maybe we'll do stars on screens for this, if that's okay. And for everyone that's new, I'll explain how you do that in a minute. So what I'm really interested in, I've got sort of two questions, I suppose, for you. The first is, which one of those felt easier to answer? So if you can stick a star on my screen with your response to that, everybody who's thinking, I don't know how to put stars on screen. So the way that you do this is bottom left of your, I think it's bottom left of your Zoom screen, you should see a little pen. And if you click on that, you'll get like a little toolbar will come up, and you want to click, there's a tick, there's a stamp on there, and then just put the star on the screen. So bottom left of your screen, there should be a little pen. Click on that, you'll see a toolbar, find the tick icon, and then you just want everyone just to put in the star on the screen. Don't worry if you can't do it, it's not absolutely essential, but it just gives us a quick sort of visual sort of clue of which ones people felt. Let me move you around so I can see. What do you think? 50-50? 50-50 maybe on that one? maybe slightly more on the yellow box. So slightly more people found it easier to answer the what do you do at work that's found purposeful, but it's not as super significant. The second question, so ease is one thing. Second question, I'm going to clear off all of your stars. When you are thinking about you and purpose, which one of those questions feels more useful for you? Like for I'm going to clear all your stars. Which one is a more useful question for you if you're thinking about you and purpose at work, and which one like just feels a bit more practical? That looks different. That's interesting. So you've maybe found both questions sort of equally easy to answer because we had a split, but it feels like the more practical question is the one on the right. That's interesting, I think. Like we're trying to make purpose practical. So thinking about, well, what work do I do that actually feels purposeful is maybe more relatable than the big zoomed out thing. And that's where we got to. That's where we got to on the podcast, at this idea of how do I think about purposeful work rather than just having a purpose at work? It might sound like semantics, but I think if we're going to put this into action, anything that we can do that makes purpose feel a bit more practical, I think is useful. And so even just purposeful work versus purpose at work might be a slightly different starting point for us to be able to take action. I'm going to clear your stars off, just have a look at some questions before we get into a bit of squiggly career sweet spots. Sam says, I'm going to have to think a bit more about what feels purposeful. My instinct is everything. Yeah, I think I would just like almost like look at your week at work, and it's like, what were the most purposeful moments for me this week? I think that might help you to sort of spot some of what this might mean for you. So where Sarah and I went on the podcast is kind of having this idea of, okay, don't start with what is my purpose, this kind of big, lofty, hard question that can feel like sometimes you've got to have a perfect answer. Start with purposeful work and work out what that looks like and how you get to do more of that, was where we were. And so we kind of came up with this idea of sort of the squiggly career sweet spot that is individual for everyone. I guess it's our version of I can never say it, ikigai. If you know, you know, but I just can't say it. But I guess it's our version of that, taking some of the concepts that we talk about and thinking about how does that help me get to this insight about what is purposeful work for me. And so there were 4 things that help you to find your squiggly career sweet spot. So I thought I would just go through them now. I really want to make sure that everybody knows how to answer them. You don't have to answer them with me now because you might want a bit more time, but I would just want to make sure that when we're talking about values, for example, that people know, if you've not done values before, you kind of know how to do them. So the first thing on finding your squiggly career sweet spot is you want to understand what motivates and drives you. This is where the values come in. A couple of people have mentioned in chat already that, you can't really think about purpose without thinking about your values. I know, actually, just stars on screen, who feels confident that they know what their values are. Just stars on screen. If you're like, Helen, I've done some work on this, I've listened to your podcast, I've read your book, I've done this work. Just looking at stars on screen. Okay, quite a lot of you, but I think there are about 100 of us here, and they're not 100 stars there. So just as a kind of very basic intro to values are the things that make you you. They're the things that motivate and drive you. They're not things that change from one week to the next. So they're not like aspirations. It's not, oh, one week I aspire to be loyal, and the next week I aspire to have integrity. Like your values are pretty consistent, and they act like almost like a compass for your career. They give you a lot of direction. They help you to make better decisions. And the more that you can connect what makes you you to what you do, the happier you are at work. That's why we care about values. We have got a free values toolkit on our website. If I go and find that now, I'll get distracted. So it's just amazingif.com. It's on the free toolkit page, and it's the values toolkit. So if you want to dive into it, we've got podcasts on it. We've got a free toolkit. But I think one of the simplest ways to start thinking about what your values are is there's a very simple kind of question for you to sort of reflect on, which is what's most important to you about who you work with, what you work on, and where you work. If you spend some time answering each of those questions. What's most important to you about who you work with, like type of people? What's most important to you about what you work on, like, you know, the best work that you could do, what would that look like? And what's most important to you about where you work, like the culture, the environment? If you spend some time reflecting on those things, what you will probably start to see is some consistencies in different contexts. And that's really your values show up in all the work that you do, in the way that you do your work. And there are some, as I said, there are lots of exercises. Go download the toolkit. But just as a starting point, I think this answer is a really important thing. So first part of Squiggly Career Sweet Spot is your values, like what motivates and drives you, what makes you you. Susan, thank you for putting that link in the chat. I really appreciate you doing that for me in place of the team helping out today. Thank you. So the next thing that we talked about in kind of finding your Squiggly Career sweet spot is all about your strengths. Like these are also kind of a fundamental part of what will help you to have purposeful work. And so strengths are the things that give you energy at work. So when you're doing it, you feel really energized. Lots of people will say to me like, oh, Helen, how do you do all the things that you do? And I'm like, well, because I get to use my strengths. Like I have so much energy for my work because I get to use my strengths in doing it. So strengths are the things that give you energy. And then the things that you want to be known for. So this is a choice. What is it you actually want to be known for? And so there are a couple of questions that you can ask here. In fact, sort of just stars on screen on strengths. Who feels really confident in their strengths? Who's like, Helen, I'm really clear on this. Where are we? I'm just going to compare the amount of stars to the ones on values. Maybe fewer. Interesting. There's fewer stars there, right? The values one. Interesting. So this is really important, by the way. Like actually, just aside from your Squiggly Career sweet spot, you understanding what gives you energy and what you want to be known for is really, really important for your career. So if you feel like you've got a bit of a gap on this at the moment, a really easy question to get started with, though I would suggest if you've got a gap, like going into some of our podcast episodes on strengths, but a really easy one to get started with is either I'll get my pen going. Either when are you at your best? There's one question you can use to prompt your thinking, or what do you want to be known for? Either of those questions will start to get you towards strengths. And if you're really, really stuck, go get some strengths-based feedback. Go and speak to people and say, when do you see me at my best? Get a bit more kind of data in there if that one feels a little bit difficult to answer. Sean is saying, I found this exercise very helpful for understanding my strengths. Oh, I haven't. Standout, is that Marcus Buckingham's standout assessment, Sean? Because I don't know the TNBC, I don't know that link, but Marcus Buckingham did do a really good assessment on standout. Also, is this Find My Why? This is a good chat. Yeah, that it is excellent. Yes. Marcus Buckingham's standout assessment is excellent. Also, Caroline, I haven't done the Find My Why exercise. I'll give you one more because someone in the Squiggly Career community messaged me this week and said, oh, Helen, this is a good survey. In fact, let me pop, I haven't done this, but this is recommended by Katie Barnes, who is in the Squiggly Career community. Let me put this in chat in case it's useful for you. We can all try it out together because I haven't done it yet. Here's another one. So if you find those questions hard to answer, then maybe some of these surveys might be useful. My caveat on the surveys is use it as data for your development. Don't assume it as the answer. Like these are generic surveys with algorithms, and you are a human being with individual traits. So use it as an input rather than assuming that whatever that kicks out is the answer for you in your career. So they're the first two. Third one, we want to think about problem solving, which is a kind of maybe a sort of a strange place to go here. But when you're thinking about your purpose, we want to think about like what are you trying to improve? What are you trying to change? So two things that are important are problem solving, and then the second one is kind of your impact beyond the work that you do today. So two questions, and I'm speeding up just because I want to make sure I go through this, and I think these are big things for you to reflect on. So on the problem solving, this one here is, what do you want to improve at work? So I might say, at work within my company, what do I want to improve? I want to improve how people learn at work. Like, I want to make it easier for people to learn at work. I want learning to be part of everybody's everyday development, and I want to create things that make that happen, is what I would put in there. Impact is, what cause do you care about that is bigger than you? What cause do you care about that is bigger than you? This gets into some of that kind of the Jay Shetty stuff, passion kind of is kind of purpose that benefits other people, that kind of stuff. What cause do you care about that's bigger than you? So, for example, I care about I believe that happy careers lead to happy lives. And so I believe if we help people with their career, they will be happier in their life because of how much time we spend at work. That is a cause that is way bigger than me. And the reason that you want to do this, so for each of these areas, you will have an answer. You will have an answer. That's some insight. That's very individual insight. This is going to be unique for all of us. And that's kind of the point when we're trying to find purposeful work. So what you want to do with your answers is try to get to like a purpose statement. We often talk about like personal statements. Hi, I'm Helen and I'm a leader, blah, blah, blah. Not that. I want you to get to a purpose statement. So something for you that feels like this is purposeful work for me. And just like, it can be just a couple of lines, and you take all of your insights from here, my values, my strengths, the problems I want to solve, the impact I want to have beyond me, and you use those insights to get to a statement. So for example, purposeful work for me means making a difference to people's development and helping everybody to learn at work. Like, that might be my statement that I get to as a result of having these ideas. And then what you're trying to do within a month or a quarter is think of, well, how do I do work that aligns with that? That's all you're trying to do. How do I do work that aligns with that? So don't go questing for this perfect purpose. Try to get to sort of a statement based on these insights. If you struggle, you can use, and we practice this, you can use AI to help. So put your insights, we did actually in the pod sheet, we did a little prompt to help you. So you just write, my values are, my strengths are, the problems I want to solve, the impact I care about having, and then ask, you can use, I would use ChatGPT, but you can use Perplexity or Claude or whatever you want to use. Ask ChatGPT or whatever you're using to generate a personal statement based on these insights. So if you struggle to do it yourself, then just you do the hard work of the reflection and make it do the hard work of the suggestion. But that is a way that you can kind of get to a statement that will feel meaningful and unique for you, and hopefully will be helpful for your development too. So we are at time now. If you give it a go and if you get to a statement, please do share it with me. I would love to read it. I find it quite inspiring to read people's statements about their work. Some people have already been messaging us about it, and it's lovely to see. So you can email us, helen@amazingif.com, or just find me on LinkedIn and message me. But if you want to run it by anybody, so that you have that confidence and clarity as well, my hand's up to help. Very happy to help.